Alex. How are you?
I'm very
You're
well,
right.
thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're frozen actually. That's not a
am
good
I?
start to things, isn't it? You're back now.
Am I back?
Yeah.
That's good. That's great. My internet has been shocking today. Like, it's just been insane. I think everyone must take Friday as a working from home day.
I think that's probably it. Yeah.
Yeah. How are you? What have you been up to so far today?
Yeah. Well, it's been a bit of a slow start today.
Yeah.
I had some meetings this afternoon, but yeah, typically Friday is my sort of study day to write up competency stuff like that. So
I think they're always a bit good to like kind of just lie in a little bit and just catch up on other stuff as well that you've not been able to do in the week. Do you always spend your study day at home?
Yeah, typically. I've been working from home quite a lot of late, so that's only just changed. So trying to establish some sort of routine.
Yeah. But, just the thought of like getting up a little bit earlier so you can actually get into work on time.
Yeah, exactly that.
Cool. So which specialism are you on?
So I'm on the clinical engineering brackets undefined specialism, but clinical engineering.
I spoke with someone who did rehab engineering. So is that kind of, do they fall under the same?
Yeah. So clinical engineering is sort of at the minute split into device risk management and governance, and then clinical measurement, and then rehab engineering. So basically undefined is just sort of all of those things, and you have a chance to try each of them and then specialize a bit further down the line.
Oh, that's good. Dip your toe in the water of all of them and then decide. Do you have, like, what was your background to the STP? Have you always known that you wanted to do something clinical?
Yeah, so it was, I did my undergrad in biomedical engineering at King's College London, where I'm actually based at now, which is
that's
been there a while now. And then so last year I did my master's there, also in biomedical engineering, but more towards like sort of robotics, I suppose. So yeah, then after that, then I applied for the STP and got placed at King's again. So
you're never gonna leave. Constantly going back. So I know very little about biomedical engineering, unsurprisingly. I feel like I know absolutely nothing about pretty much every single specialism.
That's the way.
So what kind of things do you engineer? Or like what kind of things does that encompass?
So in terms of the actual subject, I suppose it's actually quite broad in terms of what you can do with it. The sort of theme is applying sort of principles of maths and physics towards the field of healthcare, really. So there is a lot of like medical imaging and sort of different imaging modalities and stuff like that, and research into MRI, ultrasound, X-ray, that sort of thing, which is sort of more under the umbrella of medical physics, maybe.
Yeah.
And then so there's things in like rehabilitation engineering, so applying technology to people with disabilities or injuries and things like that. Yeah, and then so also under biomedical engineering, I suppose, is various like mathematical modeling of processes in the body, really. So like cardiac stuff, and so you can sort of go towards quite a specific niche of whatever you're sort of into, I suppose.
Do you have any idea of what you're particularly interested in, or are you hoping that you'll find that out in the program?
So I'm definitely more interested in the sort of like design and sort of like practical application in like measurement and rehab and things like that. So I did my master's in specializing in like medical devices and robotics. So then something I missed from university was sort of encountering actual people that it would benefit. It all felt a bit academic for a while. Hence why I applied for the STP, really. So
it does, doesn't it? It just feels like you're working on something very, very small.
Yeah.
That may in the future be incorporated into something very, very big. But did you have much NHS experience before you started the course, or?
I suppose not in terms of work so much, in terms of being a patient. So I'm a wheelchair user. I have like a spinal illness when I was younger. So I've spent a lot of times in hospital.
Bless you.
Which actually is, I don't know, it sounds kind of cheesy, I guess, but part of the reason that I'm interested in it, I think, is because I've encountered a lot of the technology that I'm sort of learning about.
So did you have quite a lot of like interaction with maybe like rehab engineering and things like that?
Yeah, that sort of thing. So lots of orthotics and like wheelchair seating clinics and things like that. And physio, lots of physio. So, yeah.
How have you found your hospitals kind of helped you navigate that? Have they been good with adjusting to?
Yeah, so luckily there's not really been, I don't think, anything extra that I've had to do actually. Hospitals, I guess, generally are pretty accessible. Some of the older buildings, like in a lot of the time, engineering departments in hospitals are like in some outbuilding or in a basement or something. So that's not always ideal. But
up some rickety set of stairs.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I think it's really good, isn't it, to have insight into what patients actually might be going through. You can get quite bogged down in the details sometimes, but just remembering the kind of difference that you'll be making to someone's life is really useful.
Yeah.
Do you see patients much in your specialism then? I know rehab engineering is quite like patient focused, but I'm not sure about Undefined.
So as part of the Undefined, I'm currently in my DRMG placement, which is the risk management and governance of medical devices thing. So that out of the three, that's probably the least patient focused one. So I am yet to do the measurement and rehab placement, which I'm hoping will be more patient focused. But there's there's quite a lot of overlap between the three, I think, or at least there can be if you seek it out. So for example, I've sort of within this DRMG placement, I've managed to get like a sort of mini placement within neurophysiology. And that's been great. I've loved that because then you actually get to see people, and that's fun.
That is really interesting. So is that kind of looking at how the devices are used in the different specialisms then?
Yeah, sort of. I mean, I suppose it's a bit more tailored towards clinical measurement, which I think is the broadest in that you're going to get sort of specific technology in certain departments. And so that can sort of take you wherever you're interested in, and sort of my interests are in neurology and neurophysiology. So
must be really interesting, like having to go from different departments and being able to like communicate with all of those different people that are specialized in completely different things.
Yeah, a lot of certainly a lot of the initial times are sort of just explaining who you are and what you're doing there. So that's been fun. But
yeah, definitely. What have you been up to so far then? You mentioned that you're back at King's.
So so starting the STP in last September, September through December was all taken up with master's component. So it was all teaching pretty much. And obviously with all the COVID stuff happening, that was all from home. So yes, not a lot of workplace stuff in that time period. So then I started this DRMG placement at the start of January. Again, a little sort of a little bit from home, and now more so going in physically.
That's nice. It must be just crazy. Have you had to move to relocate or anything?
No, so from being in King's for uni, I was sort of already living in London, so
that's really useful.
Yeah, at least, I know a couple of people were planning on moving down, and that all got very stressful. So,
are there other trainees with you in your department or your hospital?
So yeah, there's one other clinical engineer at our trust, and then we're sort of grouped together with medical physicists as well. Yeah. So there are 4 of those also at KCH, so there's 6 of us in total.
There are so many medical physicists.
We sort of do separately.
Okay, so you split. You'll be in DMRG and someone else, and the other trainee will be in like measurement or something.
Yeah, or it's kind of confusing because the King's trust is sort of encompasses multiple different hospitals and then other like partner trusts. So the other, it's I don't really get how it works. The London hospitals confuse me. But so the other engineer, she is doing her DRMG placement, but at Guy's Hospital, and I'm at King's Hospital. So
I just know these places from like various, like hospital or surgeons at the edge of life. Like that's the only like link I have to any of them. I'm so bad at geography. Cool. So what have you done all of your uni work then for the majority of the 3 years? Because it sounds pretty intense having to do like 3 months of just constant uni.
Yeah. So I suppose we've sort of completed semester 1. I'm not actually sure how the rest of the uni work is divided up over the next couple of years. But certainly we have a bit of time off now to just do sort of working stuff, competencies and stuff like that before we start up again.
Competencies. I've got a list as long as my arm of things that I need to get done. How have you found that side of things? Has it been quite impacted with COVID, your ability to like go in and see things, or?
Yeah, I mean, some of them more so than others. So the stuff that requires sort of practical experience or like practically demonstrating that you know how to do something, that's been quite difficult to I haven't got any of those done yet. So hopefully the time will come soon when that's possible. But there's sort of the other half of them are fairly straightforward or can be done fairly well remotely, so it's been okay.
Like using
I haven't done all that. Yeah, I've done a couple.
We'll get around to them. Have you done all of your assessments for this year, or have you got some in summer that you need to
do? Oh, excellent question. I think so. We had exams in January for the master's bit.
Yeah.
And then the assessments for each of these placements.
Oh no, just the uni.
Oh right, just the master's.
The assessments for the placements are just a bit confusing, so I don't ask about them. Wasn't going to put you on that much of the spot. So, did you have any like work experience or anything before starting the STP that you drew on, or did you rely quite heavily on your uni experience in your application?
Yeah, I've got to. That was. I probably relied a bit more heavily on the stuff I've done at uni. Definitely the sort of research projects that. So we did, rather than doing like a dissertation, I guess it's the same in a lot of STEM subjects really. You do sort of like a research project. So yeah, I think that was good experience for, certainly for sort of like self-learning. It's teaches a lot of stuff like sort of literature reviews and sort of like planning work and doing it when you have to organize it yourself. Which was a steep learning curve for me a little bit, but I did have a bit of work experience between second and third year. just sort of shadowing in clinical measurement department in Gait.
Oh, that's good. It can be really difficult to get, I think, especially at the moment, to be fair, but even in normal times, just to get some experience. So how did you just like email someone and ask, or was it something that was arranged through your uni?
Yeah, well, I mean, luckily so the person who runs the department was one of our lecturers in undergrad, so that was sort of relatively straightforward, I guess.
Have you, I don't know if there are like regional training networks in London, I'm guessing there are. Have you been able to like meet other trainees through that since starting?
So there have been a couple of sort of London training network events. It's kind of, well, it's a sort of a consequence of doing stuff over Zoom or whatever. It's kind of hard to like meet people. But they've been pretty active and send things out sort of quite regularly. So
hopefully as well, once we're allowed to actually go out and do stuff, and hopefully it'll be sunny, we'll be able to meet up and things. So what's your is your department somewhere that's hosted trainees for a long time, or is it quite a new one? How have you found like the organisation and stuff?
Yeah, so luckily it's been they've been having trainees there for some time, so that's I think that's a benefit of maybe it being one of the bigger centres as well. That there's sort of I was going to say not really procedures, but like they've done it before, so they have a sort of a system of how to do it. So the organisation's been quite good, which is pretty lucky, I suppose. Yeah,
they know what works and what might not work. So like, especially at the moment, I think that's so useful. Just they've had the first years that are now second years. Their training was interrupted with COVID as well, so they've had a little bit of a chance to kind of get to grips with how to change any of the learning.
Sure.
What do you actually get up to day to day then? Are you kind of working on the running of the machines, or are you involved in the actual like performing of the measurements?
So being in like the DRMG placement at the minute, that's I suppose the most I was going to say admin heavy. So within DRMG stuff, you're sort of managing the devices in the hospital throughout the sort of entire life cycle. So that's like procurement, and then getting the devices in and maintaining and servicing, and then decommissioning. So it's been, I've sort of done little bits of sort of each step of that. And then hopefully, so the clinical measurement placement is when hopefully you start getting more of the actual like applying the cool technology side of things to and actually performing things practically with patients. So I'm looking forward.
What kind of things do you measure? Like,
that's a good question. So kind of like I said before, it's kind of broad in that. So where I am at the minute in neurophysiology, stuff that would fall under clinical measurement is like EEG. So sort of monitoring electrical activity of like the nervous system, so EEG, EMG, and like nerve conduction studies and stuff like that. But then you find sort of specialist clinical measurement in sort of whichever department you look at. So we had one of our lecturers last term was from urodynamics. And then we had another one from like gastroenterology. And then the main and then the main sort of clinical measurement placement that everyone at King sort of does is at the gait laboratory, which is like a big motion capture room. And it's pediatric, so they get children that have maybe most commonly like cerebral palsy, or other sort of neurological or muscular things. you attach all the. I don't know if you've seen like motion capture suits. You attach the little like balls to the various joints.
Yeah, I feel like you see them in movies sometimes, like someone's on a green screen and you see them.
Yeah. So it's like that basically. So you sort of assess the motion of their joints and muscles and stuff.
Yeah.
To sort of assess what problems they have. There also walk on like force plates, so you can see force distribution of when they're walking, to then refer to whichever treatment is most relevant, I guess.
That sounds really tricky in some respects, trying to get kids to do anything, I think, but also really rewarding.
Yeah, so that's actually where I did my sort of week of work experience during undergrad. Yeah, and it was great. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Do you find working with kids like easy or okay? I think I'd find that really. I'm tempted to do like an elective in it, just because I don't think it's something that I'm particularly. I find talking to kids perfectly fine. I used to work as a tutor, but trying to explain anything like medical to them and their parents, I think I'd find really difficult.
Yeah. That is sort of one of the main challenges I'm anticipating, I guess. But I think it's really fun. Like, so when I was there at the gait lab, they might come in and they'd be really sort of nervous. They wouldn't know what's going on. And it's nice when they sort of relax into it, and then I don't know, when you can engage them, that's super fun. Well, when you can, if you can.
Once they come around to it. How did you find the application and everything?
Yeah, so I mean, very stressful. Yeah, I don't know how much was different because of COVID and everything. So, for example, the application, they didn't do the sort of national interviews that they normally do. Oh, I guess you're the first year as well, right?
Yeah.
No, I'm explaining this.
Sorry.
But yeah, that was nice, I guess.
Yeah.
The most stressful thing in the application, I think, were the sort of aptitude tests. But I hear they've scrapped those now, so that's.
Yeah, I think they're situational judgment tests, which I think is like a better way of assessing people's suitability for the job. At no point in this job would I do a maths thing in 60 seconds and just take my own word that I got it right.
It's like the maths thing, fair enough, but having to do it so quickly doesn't it doesn't make any sense to me why I've seen that.
No, actually.
But thankfully that is done with now. So.
Yeah, exactly. If you were gonna kind of, I know it's a little bit late, the applications close on Monday, but if you were gonna give anyone like a piece of advice for just trying to like enhance their application, what do you think it would be?
I think certainly something that so I remember being told a lot at like open days and things like that, and that I think I would agree with is really reading up on like what the program is. I mean, that sounds kind of stupid, but I think it can be a little bit ambiguous at times, or a bit vague of sort of what specifically you're applying to do, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So really reading up about what the program is, and then why you want to do it. I mean, that sounds like super generic advice, but I think it genuinely is helpful.
Yeah, definitely. I think because there's so many different streams as well. If you don't know that you've definitely wanted to do this for a while, like in your head, it can be something completely different to what it actually is.
Yeah.
Has it lived up to what you thought it was going to be?
I mean, I suppose it is still sort of early days at the minute. So, so yeah, I've maybe had well, definitely had to do more at home, like I said before, which wasn't necessarily anticipating before.
That's true.
It's been really fun, actually. Even well, I was about to say maybe I shouldn't say this, but it sounds like I'm going to say now. The DRMG placement wasn't necessarily the one I was like most looking forward to.
No, yeah.
I was pretty set on the sort of measurement and rehab side of things. But I think that's one of the good things about doing this sort of like undefined stream is that I'm doing that placement now, and I'm finding things that I really enjoy within it, and I'm enjoying it way more than I thought I was going to.
No, I think that's a really good point. I was not looking forward to the bioinformatics placement at all. But you really see how like things fit together, and I think it is useful for just getting a general overview into how all the specialisms mesh together.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Well, it has been very illuminating. I always kind of thought when I was reading through the specialisms, I was like, engineering, that's going to be one like behind the scenes. And speaking with you is just like, oh, they actually
do things.
No, not do things, but like meet patients way more than we even do. Which isn't hard because we don't meet patients at all, but I kind of thought you were going to be in a similar situation to us. I don't know. I know quite a lot of civil engineers, and they always just seem to be like in the library.
Yeah.
And things.
It's something about engineering departments that are always, I don't know, set apart from everything else.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really interesting side of things I wouldn't have expected, I guess. Cool. Perfect. I hope you have a productive rest of your study day.
Thank you.
Have you got anything like planned to get done, or are you just going to see where the day takes you?
Yeah, I mean, boring admin stuff, I guess, like emails to reply to and stuff like that. But yeah.
I literally just leave them all, and then if there are some that you definitely do need to reply to, but the majority I'm just like, at the start I'd send people like a thank you for sending this email if they sent something over.
Yeah.
And now I'm just like, okay, I'll just say thank you in my first email and then not clog up their inbox in the second.
It's like implied. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. No. Right, perfect. Well, have a nice rest of your admin day.
Thank you very much.
See you later.
Yeah.
Thanks.